Is everybody ready? Because I feel like this is gonna be a video where I sound off. Alright, okay, I need to start with this. Some people are so poor. You're like, oh my god, Damon. No, that's not what I mean. Just wait for the fucking end of the sentence. Some people are so poor, all they have is money. Some people are so poor, all they have is money. All they care about is money. Therefore, their life is so unenriched. I needed to make this video. One is like therapy for me. The number one stressor in my life is not necessarily money itself, but being self-employed, one. Being self-employed abroad, two. Tax systems all over the world, three. Now, none of these three things are going to leave my life. All three are going to be in my life, so I need to figure this out. Maybe you're in the same boat. Maybe that's why you wanted a finance video from Damon. Because it's all fucking confusing, right? And you know what? You wonder why we don't learn about taxes. The one thing that concerns literally everybody. We don't learn about it in high school, public education, which is paid for by what? Taxes. Oh. When you learn about finance, you realize that, okay, the people who work for a company are actually taxed the highest percentage of their income. The rich people, the wealthy people, are making their income not by working every day, but by getting all that money by working, yes, but putting it in an investment. It's the investment where their money triples, quadruples, blah, 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 okay? And when you have it there and you take it out, you're taxed at a lower rate. So we'll start there. Like, why did my government tell me that? Oh, right, because it benefits them actually for me not to know. You know what? This is the video that I wish I would have had. Because let me put it this way. At age 29, yes, 29 years on earth, I thought I was being smart by having all my money in my bank. I thought I was being smart, that I wasn't gambling my money in the stock markets. Don't do that. Or maybe do that. Like, let me tell you the pros and cons also down the line, because it's not like it's all, like you are gambling, like actually you are. Because it's risky to have your money in investments still. It's also risky to have it in a checking account, yes, because you lose money, blah, 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 we're gonna get to that. And guess what? If it's in a bank account somewhere, it's truly just hypothetical. These are hypothetical numbers in a computer, in a spreadsheet. You cannot go to the bank right this second and withdraw all your money if you wanted to. That should tell you enough that that shit's fake. It's a ledger. It's literally an equation in the system that basically tells everyone how much the society owes you for the amount of like hours of work you've put in. La, 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 la. Okay, cool. So it's fake until you spend it, basically. Every finance YouTuber watching this, Graham Stephan, turn it off now. Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey. We're gonna break for our sponsor, which is me, my French courses. I realized, wow, why do I do sponsors for everyone else's content when I could do it for my own, which actually is the whole reason I can make this whole video. I'm launching French cultural guides, like how to flirt in French, how to flirt in French, French culture and cuisine, awkward small talk. I'm also ramping up for a Spanish course and a few other courses. I was thinking about doing a motivation course, a digital nomad course. Like nothing but courses over here, and guess what? Nothing but money. Ching-ching. So the reason I feel like I never got into this topic, number one, I never had any money. Number two, I never felt like I related to people who loved finance. To me, they were living for money, which was like, no, that's backwards actually. Like, we're not living to work. We're not just here on earth to like keep acquiring currency. Like, to this day, the things we all actually want to do don't require money. Laughing our ass off with our friends, that's free. Falling in love, having sex, that's literally free. Playing a sport, most of the times that's free. Going for a walk at sunset, that's free. Oh, this is not financial advice. Yes it is, but every other video, apparently you have to say that so you don't get sued. God, even that, suing, I'm like, damn, someone must have really screwed you over for your ego to be messed up to need such revenge. Such, like, vengeance. I know it's an American thing, like everyone's always worried about getting sued. Why would you ever do that? I see day in and day out people taking my ideas on YouTube. Tell me how red wine talks is like everyone's thing now. But it's fine because look, I probably got my inspiration from someone else too. It's not like it was my idea. It's like we all have ideas and they just come to us. But like who's to say I deserve to have certain ideas and other people don't? Oh, this is not financial advice. I wrote, this is not financial advice. This is just like hypothetical math equations. Anyways, blah, 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 legalities. My issue with finance, the topic itself, is that it's a topic that's rather gatekeepery, which is something that I don't like with. I don't like that. For example, I just hired a lawyer the other day to look over a document. You know how much they charge? $500 an hour. An hour. Why do they get to charge that much? It's because they went to school and they learned the law. Okay, whoa. Why don't we just simplify the law so that everybody can understand? And then we don't need to do that. But whatever, it's been like this for decades, centuries, thousands of years, blah, 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 blah. So we gotta play the game. Same with accountants. Accountants know everything about tax law. And you know what? The first thing they'll tell you, it's all up for interpretation. How you read the sentence and how they read the sentence can be two different sentences, as long as you have your story straight. That's like the main thing I've learned. I have hired seven. I hired seven accountants in France. They all gave me different answers for what I should do with my company in France. How I should set up my business in France. Every single one gave me a different answer. Some told me to do this structure. Some told me to not be a tax resident. Some told me to do a branch. I thought that there was like a rule book that we all had to follow, and they knew the rules. And so I was paying them to be like, here's the rules, you need to do this. They're just interpreting like what they would probably do in my case, okay? So number one thing is that tax code, business code, you're gonna hear a lot of like, hey, here are the rules, but also like you can kind of do it this way. For peace of mind, I like to play by the rules, which is again why I hired 7 freaking accountants so I could make sure I was doing everything correctly. What I found out in the process, again, is like, the more you ask questions, the more you're just tu mets dans la merde en fait. Let me give y'all some food for thought. As somebody who is self-employed and has like a more of a free-spirited hippie vibe, even though I pay like accountants to help me, my boy Caesar, it's still something that because I don't fully understand, it's in the back of my mind at all times. Add on that I'm like living around the world, I have an apartment in Paris, I'm just like, holy crap, not only do I not understand this, but now I don't understand it like times 10. And this isn't going anywhere. So it's something that I, in the past year, have worked a lot on because I want to give myself peace of mind. It's the only thing that stresses me out, to be honest. So food for thought, right? 90% of the people watching this video are probably working for somebody. Okay, let me tell you the pros actually, because I know you're probably like, oh, this sucks, I just want to work for myself. Well, there is an advantage to clocking into work and clocking out of work and having the rest of your day be yours. You can take a shower and not be thinking about like, oh my God, did I get their latte order wrong? Like, oh my God, there's that email. Oh, it's no worries, I can do it tomorrow morning. When you're off work, you're off work. When you're self-employed, that's not a thing. If you work for an employer, your employer tends to pay for your benefits, aka your vision, your medical, your dental. So that's not even something you have to worry about. When you get your paycheck, you might see that all this shit is taken out of it, but it was all done for you. Like, you didn't have to think about it other than like, shit, that sucks. When you're self-employed, when you get your money, you have to be disciplined enough to like know that 50% of that is probably gonna go towards expenses or healthcare or something like that. Like, not everyone is good with money like that. So much of the topic around money is psychological. Shout out to my therapist, Amanda. A year ago, I took this class called Existential Therapy, and they said so many adults are basically still in this child mindset because you don't have to be anything else, really. For example, we grow up and we look to our parents for guidance. We're in school, we look to our teachers for guidance. Like, tell me what to do, because I don't know what to do on my own. Then you go from college and you go to a job where you have a boss. So basically your entire life, there's somebody else kind of telling you what you need to do. So when you're self-employed, you are now fully in control of yourself, which not a lot of people have this skill because they're not used to it. So they have a hard time like giving themselves things to do or finding the right path for growth because they're constantly looking for someone else to be like, no, it's okay, you can do this. Or like, no, you actually have to do it this way. Just saying, self-employment is not for everybody. The pros of working for yourself are that you are now in control of really how many taxes you pay. For example, if I bought this laptop, I can deduct this. If you, working for, I don't know whoever you work for, bought this laptop, you cannot deduct this really. We both get a salary, you and me. I can deduct this because it's necessary for my job, and now I pay taxes on what's left. You pay taxes and then you go and buy all your stuff. So really, it's like yes, we're still both paying for a laptop, but at the end of the day, the total cost is lower for me. My tax burden is going to be lower because I can essentially get everything I want. Even this pen, I bought this nice ass pen from Muji. This is a business expense. I need this to write. Don't get me wrong, I think it's all bullshit, by the way. Like how some people can do this and other people can't, and the only thing that changes is paperwork in a system. Trust me, I'm still there. I'm right there with you. But again, we're gonna play the game instead of being resentful.
So when you start your company, you don't just start it and that's it. You get all these different options. Do you want to be an LLC? Do you want to be taxed as an S Corp? Do you want to be taxed as a C Corp? Do you want to be a corporation? Like, I don't know. Am I supposed to know that? Now, along with these different business structures come different tax structures, and this is why people play with this shit all the time. You can do a business structure where you get a paycheck from yourself. Again, it gets a little trippy because you are just paying yourself, but you have it set up through a company. So it's basically like you're getting a paycheck from an employer, but you are the employer. You are still responsible for paying all the taxes everywhere. The benefits of this are that you get to set your own salary. So basically you, with your employer brain, are gonna be like, okay, as a company, we're making this much. But as an employee, you can manipulate which tax bracket you're in by choosing which salary you want. So now you, as the self-employed person, you are going to be getting a salary. You get to choose your salary. But you can also take what are called dividends, draws, distributions, it's one of those three words, where you get to take little extra cookies from the cookie jar, and they're not taxed at the salary rate, they're taxed at a different rate. So people play around with these numbers all the time, and that's also one of the benefits of being self-employed, because you could do this too.
Maybe you should become your own entity, your own business. If you're like me, you better go hire somebody. Like me as a self-sufficient guy, I am always like, oh, I could probably do it myself. Joe and I, back in the day, if you watch the Damon and Joe channel, we tried doing it ourselves. It was the biggest headache. You need a CPA, okay? That's the word. It's a certified public accountant. Now that I know who to talk to, my life is so much easier. I actually just created another company in Florida because he did it. I just paid him and now it's good. So basically the person who has their own business can buy really everything they need, like new speakers, this lamp. For example, say I make $100. I'm gonna go buy everything like a laptop, like a pencil, like a book. I deduct that from my $100 of profit. So I'm left with $50. I only have to pay taxes on $50 now. Whereas you, if you're working for somebody, you're paying taxes on all of your income. You can't do this. I don't think you can. The business can. In fact, the business is getting a deduction from hiring you because they are expensive. You gotta reframe your mind. I'm not a person, I'm a business. What would this hypothetical business be deducting? That's how you gotta like position your life. It's trippy because again, I am a person, but I'm also a business. So it's like, this shit is like kind of stupid because like I'm a person. Like, what? I had heard so much about the stock market and real estate and you could do this with your money, but I thought they were just gambling. And don't get me wrong, now that I've learned a lot about this topic, I still think they are gambling. You are gambling either way. Which gamble, which risk are you more comfortable with? Are you more comfortable with risking your money in a bank account, losing value due to inflation? Meaning, like $1.50 years ago is not the same worth as $1 today. So therefore you're like losing the value of your money if you keep it in your bank account. That is why people say, don't do that. Put it in an investment account. We're gonna get here because I didn't even know what this meant. Put it in an investment account like a stock market, total stock market index fund. We're gonna get there, don't worry. Compound interest, basically it's gonna like make more money, more money, more money, more money. That way, even if inflation does go up, dollars lose their value, it won't matter as much because you will have accrued interest along the way. Okay, well I didn't know any of that. Also, that's all hypothetical because the market could crash and you could actually lose all your money. So I started learning about all this stuff because I was genuinely shocked at how well my French course did. Shocked, like, wait, I'm an American. Like, wait a second. True belief and confidence when you know that you have a value. And to this day, I'm like, yeah, I'm an American, but I could teach you better French than a French person can. Yeah, I may still mess up here and there when I'm like a little nervous on the phone. That's okay, I still make mistakes in my own language. I will be making mistakes for the rest of my life in any of the others. So I've already gotten over that, and again, that's my power. Which is why I make so much money. I didn't even know that states had their own taxes. I thought that you just paid taxes to your country. Now, other countries around the world, that's how you do it. Like, that is how you do it. Here's something I don't think many people know. I can only imagine, like, how frustrated the accountants must be when they hear this shit. When people say they don't want to make more money because they're gonna be taxed higher at a new tax rate. Yes, there is some income that will be taxed at a higher rate, you're correct. But because you're going from $100 to $101 doesn't mean that everything you made is now taxed at $101. Tax rates in the States are marginal, which means that a portion of your income is taxed at this rate. Then if you pass on to the next level, the next portion is taxed at this rate, the next portion is taxed at this rate, the next portion is taxed at this rate. It's not just because you all of a sudden got a pay raise that you're now paying a higher rate on everything. You're just paying a higher rate on that, like, on what like tips over. So look at this scale. So we see in the States, and again, this changes every president. Oh my God, politics is so fucking shady when you really start learning this stuff, because you realize like some administrations will enact tax cuts, right? But they'll set them to expire in the next presidential administration so that that president like looks bad that he like ended the tax cuts. Of course you could like extend the tax cuts, but it's just like, all this shit is really shady. We're gonna talk about government next, but let's keep going with taxes. As we see here, there are different tax brackets. So say you're in the top tax bracket. That means that everything above that rate right there is going to now be taxed at that rate. That's just federal tax though. Then you have state income tax that you add on top of this. So this is a whole nother, this is new, like another set. Not every state has state income tax. This is why you see companies moving to Texas, people moving to Florida. It's because they don't want to pay more in state income. This is why you see a lot of wealthy people move to states with no income tax, because they are now going to be saving tens of thousands of dollars by living somewhere else. Say you live in New York City, right? You have federal tax. Federal means the country. Then you have state, New York state taxes, and these percentages vary depending on which state you're from. New York and California, I believe, are the highest. They range from anywhere from 0 to 13%. Before you start adding all this stuff up, let me just tell you, it's not that simple. You're gonna divvy all this, your income up, and pay the percentage for that slice. Different percentages for each slice. Different percentages for the state income tax sliced. Then sometimes you have city tax, like city local tax, federal income tax, state income tax, city and local tax. That's not it. Then you have your money after tax, like you got your paycheck, right? Most of the purchases you make will have a sales tax on it. Like, didn't you just take taxes? Wait a second. I'm being taxed on the money that I gotta keep? Again? So then you, I don't know, you have a house. Property tax, you got a paycheck, so now it's your money, right? You put that money in investments, like a brokerage, and it made money, because everyone told you to do it that way, and then you want to take it out, because you're like, oh, I made more money. No, you still have to pay taxes on that too. That's called capital gains, baby. In France, when you die and you want to like pass your money on to your like future generations, there's an inheritance tax. And I think it's $100,000, it's capped. And they do it like, again, it's good intentions. It's like to level the playing field so people just don't inherit the wealth over and over and over. But I'm kind of like, if I can help future generations, then why wouldn't I? Why does the government get that? We're generous people, but man, where is this going? Oh, right. It's going towards like politicians who can revoke my right to get married. Like, wait, to build a wall, to go invade another country, to increase a military budget, like, whoa, that was my money that I earned. I moved my body for that. If people saw exactly like which portion of their money, where it went, or here's an idea, if you could allocate your own tax money to where you want it to go. Like, why isn't that the case? If I want all of my money to go toward immigration policy, then I could just allocate all of my tax dollars there, and that is a contribution. That would be smart. Instead, we can't decide, and so people feel like a little cynical. Where, like, we have to remember, what is that? That is your contribution to your government. But if the government is not like doing the things you want, then it's like, why do you get my money? So we have state income tax, we have federal income tax, we have city local income tax. Then you have Social Security and Medicare, basically retirement. When you reach 60 whatever and you need to go to the doctor, it'll now be covered by the government. You don't need health insurance anymore. Now that portion, the Social Security Medicare, for example, in France, is extremely extremely high. I can also now understand why a lot of people on the right are like, get rid of the, like, we don't need that much government. People, not just rich people, everyone should keep more of their money. I'm also a little biased on this topic because as a one-person business, like, of course I hire contractors to help me. I'm efficient. And it's often the private sector. It's people who know how to run a business, who know how to, like, who are disciplined with money and know how to make it work, right? Know how to make that shit work. There was a sponsor that I did a few years ago, and it was a company about water bottles, and they were like, we were just really tired of the government saying they were gonna help people get clean drinking water and never really getting around to it because of, I don't know, all the paperwork and all the laws. That the company was like, blah, 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 blah. You're not getting work done. Like, sorry, I'm over here trying to work. Like, can you please get out of my way? So what they did, every time a water bottle sold, they would give huge water jugs to schools in Kenya.
When people come with good news, you receive them happily, isn't it?
Yes. Like, how many more tax dollars does the government need to get all the programs we want done? Like, how much more you need? How much more do you need? It's literally a slap in the face, you guys, to give all of your money to the government for them to go to war with it. No, 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 no. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. Like, y'all ever seen these government websites? Like, me as someone who doesn't even have experience with like web design, I could probably make a better website. You know what, let me call up Squarespace. Let me hook up Squarespace with the government's website so we can get some like streamlined platforms. The thing that I think we can all be upset at though, is that this knowledge of like how to save money on taxes and do your correct business structure does require a level of knowledge about the tax code that, again, is so gatekeepery that only the wealthy can afford it. They can afford people who've studied it in like day in and day out. Again, the solution could just be, instead of requiring people to pay somebody who understands the tax code because they've studied it for so many years, why don't we just simplify the tax code so everyone can just benefit? You could do your taxes on TurboTax, or you could go to a local CPA. And how is your tax rate going to differ? It's going to differ because there might be certain loopholes that you could take advantage of. The average person could take advantage of. It's just like, there's something off about the whole thing. The IRS speaking, hey, I know exactly how much you owe in taxes, but I'm not gonna tell you. You have to figure it out, and then, hey, if you make a mistake, I'm gonna penalize you. Like, okay, we're all trying to abide by a tax code that actually, the tax code seems very lenient to some extent and very punitive in some other extents. Things you should know that the rich do that you could probably do one day. When I learned this, I was like, wow, that's some valuable information. Like, I wish somebody would have mentioned that. Why do rich people have so many houses? Why do rich people have so many cars? It's not because they actually need them. It's because you can write it off as a tax deduction. You can say that you needed that car to get to work. You can say that this house was a studio. So now you can deduct like tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars from your tax bill. So at least you're getting something from it. In the tax code, there are different categories, like different things like millions of pages long, right? You have tax deductions, you have tax credits, you got like charitable donations. Then there's also artwork. This is why a lot of wealthy people are paying like millions of dollars for artwork. It's because you can hold your money in art. Like basically, you would have an agreement with the artist. Be like, hey, value this piece of artwork for $5 million. I'll buy it from you. And because it's art and it's like, I don't really know if that's worth $5 or $5 million, it's kind of like an easy way to cheat the system. I have seen this personally. Like when I was 19, I was a stagiaire. I was an intern for this woman who would make appearances on Good Morning America. She would always bring me to these events of like the wealthy New Yorkers. One was an art gallery in Chelsea, and I was sitting there as people bid on the art pieces, and they would be bidding like 2 million. At the time, I didn't understand like who would spend 2 million on this. Now I get like, oh, not only is it beautiful, yes, not only do they want to support the artist, yes, but they're also getting a benefit in that they're gonna like lower their taxes. That's the part that was missing for me. When you have that wealth, your money is not in our banks. Your money's in a different bank. It's in a private bank. Like you get special attention, but I mean, it's also because people who have tons of money have more things to do with their money. more transactions, they're trying to put it here and there. So I guess there are more needs as opposed to the majority of us who just need to withdraw money or send money to somebody. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I just remember when it was the whatever 2016 election or 2020 election and Elizabeth Warren was running, and all of the candidates on stage were just trying to get her to say that people's taxes would go up because she was promoting universal health care basically, and she was trying to say in the smartest way, yes, taxes would go up, but your overall cost for healthcare would go down. So essentially you are saving money, but because people would just hear, oh my God, my taxes are gonna go up, she wouldn't say it because she knew that's what people would hear, and that's not the point, people, because yes, your taxes may go up, but your whole cost may go down. So essentially you would be saving money, just like not in exactly the area you think you are. This big picture thinking in finance is necessary because this is how the rich do it when it comes to investments. I'm just like really shocked that literally no one in my life, like how is it that I spent 29 years on earth, of all the people that I've met, not one was like, oh Damon, do you have any investments? Spending one day learning about this stuff will save you hundreds, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in your lifetime. Once you know how money works, you don't have to worry about it anymore because you can always make more. People are putting their money in investments, okay? What does this mean? Basically, there are two ways to invest your money. You could put it in the stock market, or you can put it in real estate. Now we have this third option, which is like crypto, NFTs. Now, the stock market is basically gambling. People are saying instead of holding all your money in your bank account, in your checking, you should hold 6 months of an emergency fund. Rent, food, whatever you need to do to get your next job. That might be $10,000, that might be $80,000. Oh, and to pay your taxes. For those of us who are self-employed, like I specifically have an account in my bank account called taxes. Okay, but everything else is just sitting there collecting dust. You should have it in the stock market. Now, hold on. Damn, that's good. This is one you can do by yourself. Everything else, taxes, filing your taxes, go get a CPA. Go to Vanguard, go to Fidelity, go to Charles Schwab, open an account. Now, you're gonna have the option. Do you want an IRA or do you want a brokerage? I have both. Let me start with a brokerage. A brokerage account basically means you could put your money in there. You're not just gonna put it into Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. You have to put it in there and then you have to like elect where you wanna put it. I need a piece of paper and another drink. Checking. Then you're gonna put it in a brokerage or retirement. They're basically the same thing, they just work two different ways. Retirement funds are called IRAs. I think individual retirement account. Your IRA is like you put money in there, but you can't touch it till you officially retire. You cannot touch this money till you officially retire, which is, again, let's call it what it is, a gamble. Who says we'll even be here? Who says we'll even want to spend money when we're retired? We don't know. Everything might go great. Everything might go wrong. You're just trying to protect yourself. The other way is a brokerage. This one, like, I don't know why this one doesn't get as much love. Oh, because this one has tax benefits. Okay, so in your brokerage account, you can put money in and take money out as you want. You're following like the stock market. Basically all these companies in the stock market. I still like barely know what that means because to me it's all hypothetical again. So if we all put our money into this company and they do well, then we get more money. But if the company does bad, then we lose money. This is literally gambling. So in your brokerage, it is said that these make, I don't know, anywhere from like 6% to 10% returns. That means if you put $100 in, you would take 10% of 100, so that's $10. So you would have made $110 for doing nothing. Now again, I was always looking at that like, okay, that's $10. Like I could have made more, I could have made $10 like singing in the subway. So for me to act like this is major news is not that much. And that's the max return. Like that's at 10%. Like it's not all the time that it's gonna return 10%. It might lose 10%. If I really wanted to make an extra $100, I would have just driven Uber real quick. You see what I mean? And that's not all, because when you take it out, I think it's like there's short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains. These are just basically big words for you're being taxed again. What do you know? Say you have this money in here for over a year. That's called long-term capital gains. We're just gonna remove capital gains because I was so confused by what that even meant. Basically just, it's nothing, it's tax. We've talked about income tax, right? That's how much money you're being taxed on what you work, like you work. Now we're like, we got the money from our paycheck. We want to invest it because everyone tells us to. We make money with our investments. Okay, now you have a new tax. This tax is called capital gains tax. It's the tax on like the profit that you just made. And capital gains tax is everything like real estate and the stock market, to keep it simple. Capital gains tax is lower than income tax. So rich people make more of their money in the stock market than they do over here. And they play the stock market because the tax rate's lower. So their time is over here, whereas most of our time's over here. We're being taxed higher. Government doesn't tell us anything because they don't want us to know, apparently. You wonder why we don't learn about taxes. We don't learn about it in high school public education, which is paid for by what? Taxes. All the wealthy people who understand this are like, oh, that's a poor man's game. I might as well make my money over here because I don't have to do anything, really, one. And two, my taxes are gonna be lower. It's 0, 15, and 20%. So, okay, say you're really rich. The tax rate in the States is 37%, 20. You might as well do this. Like, you might as well do this, right? That's a brokerage account. You can take this money out as you want. If you take it out within less than a year, these tax rates are higher, I believe. And they're called short-term capital gains. So again, it's like a lot of numbers you gotta know, right? It's just like a lot of like, la 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 la. Okay. Let's actually put this in here. There are all these simulation calculators. Okay, say you start with $0. You're gonna contribute $100 every month. Let's just say it's a 5% return, like you make 5% on your money for 10 years. Here's how most finance YouTubers will explain this. If you invest $100 per month, after 10 years, you'll have $15,000. What nobody is telling you is that still 12,000 of that is your money. Yes, it would have just been sitting collecting dust in your checking account, but really you only made $4,000. You didn't make $15,000. You see what I'm saying? So if money is the goal, if growth is the goal, the $100 that you're investing in the stock market, like again, you could invest $100 on YouTube ads, get your subscribers up, and like make more money that way. Like I'm saying, this doesn't like work. The math ain't mathing over here. Now say if it's $10,000 a month, you will have made $1,500,000. But again, it's like, let's not act like $1,200,000 was the contribution like every month. Yes, you made $350,000 over 10 years, but like there is an opportunity cost to everything. That $10,000, who knows, maybe you wanted to go on a vacation, maybe you wanted to live your life here. This is also not taking into account, like that's the 5% return. Some years it's lower, some years it's more. So just when you're doing this, keep in mind, like, yes, this is smart. Most people probably should be doing this, but let's call it what it is. Wait, and I wanna say this. I've always worked in like lump sums. Like I've never been a monthly payment guy. Like even when I was doing my student loans, I had like $25,000 in debt and I paid that shit off. I deferred it for 3 years, by the way. I was like, I can't pay this right now. Give me a few years, then I'll be able to pay it all off at once. And I did. Listen to yourself. Sometimes your own math makes more sense. You do what makes you sleep better at night, and like these numbers make a lot of sense for me. See, the monthly thing doesn't really work for me. Lump sums do. Say you just randomly come across $100,000 at the ATM. Someone left their $100,000 right there. If you were to take that, just drop it in the stock market and forget about it for 10 years at 5%. Now again, remember this could go up or down, but say it's just 5% for the math. After 10 years, you made $63,000, you didn't have to do anything. That makes sense to me. And you see how, okay, you made 5% this year. Now that 5% is in the total. So now you're doing the total plus 5%, and that is also making 5%. Now you have 5% total. So you see how the money that wasn't even yours is now making you money. That's how all this works. That's the importance of compounding interest, and that's why they say get into this when you're young, because that interest is gonna make interest, and then that interest is gonna make interest, and then it's like more and more money. What are we gonna do with it all? One thing you must know is that when you allocate your funds from your checking to your Vanguard or whoever, into your brokerage or retirement, you don't just leave it there. When it's in that account, you have to then put it into something. If you just left it here, it's gonna do the same thing it did in your checking, it's just gonna sit there. No, that's like, step one is putting money in your Vanguard. Step two is within Vanguard, you have to put it somewhere. Here are your options. Put it into a stock. A stock is like Apple, Coca-Cola, Tesla, just like one individual company. This is not smart because we don't know what's gonna happen. Like maybe Tesla's cool now, maybe it won't be later. Maybe Tesla will take off, maybe you like that risk. My struggle with this is like, for example, I believe that plant-based eating, veganism, is gonna take off in the next 15 years. But the issue is that my options in the stock market are only with certain companies. I don't necessarily believe that it's this company that's gonna take off. I just think the whole idea is gonna take off. So that's unfortunate because you do have to choose one company. So I chose like Beyond Burger or something. Like maybe Impossible Burger will be the one to take off. I don't know. Like it's literally fortune telling here. Again, gambling. Everyone tells you not to pick individual stocks for this reason exactly. We don't know who's gonna succeed and who's gonna fail. So what they tell you to do is put it into an ETF. We got a stock. This is risky. You shouldn't just take one. You should take all the stocks because maybe this one will make me throw up, but this one will make me feel really good. Just by doing one, I don't know if it's gonna make me throw up or make me feel really good, okay? So you put all your money in the full exchange traded fund, ETF. You put your money in a group of stocks that you think are going to do well. You can only put your money in different like groups that are available. Meaning like the tech fund has Apple and Facebook and Microsoft. So you put your money in that whole thing and that's better for your investment because if Apple fails but Microsoft and Facebook and Twitter do really well, then you're probably gonna be safer, you see? Now the one that the billionaires, Warren Buffett and everybody else says that you should do, all these, the simple path to wealth, what he says to do is like, look, this shit's boring. You don't wanna be chasing like the stock market index every day. So what you wanna do is put your money in the total stock market. So that would be like if I had the whole thing of vitamins here. Like every company that's on the stock market, I would just put my money in the total stock market, assuming that as population grows and as we all get more innovative, the overall trajectory is gonna go up. And that's, if we look at the history, it always has gone up. That's the smartest thing to do. That's the laziest thing to do. That's what I do. I would say 80% is in that total stock market. The one that I do is called VT-SAX. Vanguard Total Stock something else. There are a lot of things that look very similar. You have the total stock market, but then you also have the S&P 500, which is basically the 500 best performing stocks, the 500 best performing companies. Now the other side of this is maybe you don't support Amazon, but they're in the tech ETF. Well, this is where you gotta choose what you wanna do with your money. There is one that's called like ethical investing. It's a group of companies that all have like ethical policies. So right, I have 80% in like the total stock market, and then I have 20% in cannabis and psychedelics, and I have Beyond Burger, I think I have Tesla, I have Apple. The point is to support companies that you hope do good things. For example, when you're buying these individual stocks, you'll see that some of them are like 20 cents. For example, MindMed is a company that I invested in. Again, I don't exactly know if it's gonna be them, but it was like my only option. It's a company that's running trials for therapeutic uses of MDMA, psilocybin, and LSD, and I support that. And I think in 10 years, that shit, it's right 20 cents now, but give it 10, 15 years, it's gonna go the way of cannabis, and we'll be able to buy it legally, as we should. I feel this way about many things, by the way, in terms of law. Like, I wasn't ever waiting for gay marriage to be legal, because I was like, I'm not waiting for you to tell me that I can live the life that I wanna live. Even today, I'm so pro psychedelic. That shit's not legal. It's not even like I don't even buy psychedelics, but it's just like, I truly believe it could help people. And it's illegal. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes innovation requires breaking the law. Certain laws, okay? Laws were put in place by people like you and me. People who go to work, people who get tired, people who go to hot yoga. It's not made by some like magical committee. These are literal people. Say if I bought 200 units of this 20-cent stock, if those 200 units then go up to $2,000, that's a lot of money that I just made, because I'm getting the profit from each of those, going from 20 cents to like $200. That's a profit of $199.80 per unit. So you times that by the 200 that I got. That was really confusing. This was my question though. I'm like, okay, well I can buy Tesla for like $600 for one. Okay, if it goes up to $800, that means I made $200. Like to me, that's not enough to like make this whole thing worth all the effort of my brain. But some people spend day in and day out trying to make gains like that. Like they'll watch the stock market all day long and be like, oh, this one went up $20, then they'll cash out. And then they'll do the next one, and that one made $100 in a day, then they'll cash out. So they're cashing out, but again, you have to remember that they're being taxed on that as well. These are all things you gotta keep track of. So that's a brokerage account. You can put money in, take money out. Regardless, you're still gonna have to pay taxes on it when you do sell it. Then you have your IRA, your individual retirement account. This is where it's also a positive to work for a company, because a lot of times your company will match your contribution. If you put $1,000 in, they'll put $1,000 in. So you just got free money. Now, if I do that, I would have to ask myself like, oh, Damon, are you willing to match my contribution? Oh yes, I am. Okay. Like, you see what I mean? Now, in your individual retirement account, the reason I'm like not so thrilled about this is because you can't take it out until you're the retirement age. Now the retirement age is decided by who? The government. Like, how are you gonna tell me when I can retire? How are you gonna tell me when I can touch the money that is mine? You see? Okay, now it's not all doom and gloom because the government gives you incentives. So say you put money into this account, there are a few ways to do it. You see how this is a huge learning curve? This is gonna go over everyone's head if you're a beginner, because it's like still going over mine. Roth IRA. Roth is in your benefit. If you can do it, do it. You can only do it if you're below a certain income. You can oh my God, it's like you can get a tax deduction for this, and your money will grow tax-free. So that when you take it out, when you're 63, you're not being taxed on that money. Now again, all these dumb rules to me, I thought I was being super smart because I was 29 when I did this, and I was like, oh, I can contribute maximum $6,000 to my Roth IRA. So I might as well put another $6,000 for next year so I don't have to think about it. There are income limits. And then j'ai dépassé, I went past the income limit, and then I was gonna get a penalty for trying to contribute to my Roth IRA when my income was too high. I was like, why would you penalize me? I'm trying to do the right thing. The money you put in your individual retirement account is taxed two different ways. You can either be taxed on it when you take it out, or right now. This one, I can't talk about this one because I don't feel like I can correctly articulate it. Sorry. Keep in mind that the money in your brokerage and the money in your IRA are all dependent on how the market's doing. So say you were retired and you wanted to retire in 2008 when the market was so low and it like all crashed and everything went to shit. That really sucks, huh? And it goes to show you like, oh, right, so a lot of this is just like a magical game because it all depends on when I retire. So it would have been really stupid to retire in 2008 because all the money that was in there would have gone way down. So you might as well wait until it's way up and then start taking it out. But again, it fluctuates every year. It's going up and down. Like if you have an anxious attitude towards money, maybe this whole thing is like something you gotta work on. I have friends who are super anxious. They'll check the stock market to see how their stuff's doing. To me, I'm like, it don't matter because you're not gonna pull it out anytime soon anyway, so why would you stress yourself out? That's like unnecessary stress. Here's what I am doing. I've always been a lump sum guy. I'm not a monthly person. I don't like monthly subscriptions. Even my gym, even my gym is not a monthly subscription. I pay them every trimester. Like it's cheaper to do it monthly, but I like doing it trimester because I don't know, maybe I'll move to Zanzibar in 3 months. Like I like to live my life that way. There's a concept called dollar cost averaging and lump sum investing. If they just changed the names of all these things, it would be so much more easy to understand. Lump sum investing is exactly what I just said. You just put your money in the stock market. That's risky though, because what if you're putting all this money in the stock market when the stock market's really high, which means it's really expensive for you, as opposed to, say the market is down one day, everything's gonna be really cheap. So my lump sum would be, I could get a lot more. Think of it as like when stock prices plummet, they're cheaper, so you can buy more. So a lot of people say it's dumb to do lump sum investments because like tomorrow the market could go down and you could have got more vitamins for the amount of money you were putting in. You see what I mean? The other option is dollar cost averaging, which means like, okay, you take this lump sum and you just like divide it over a few months. That way the average over the next few months will probably be a safer option. But then you lose out on like the compounding interest along the way because you're doing $100 a day as opposed to 10,000 right now. So 10,000 is gonna make more money over the long, just like a really fucking complicated. Anyways, I prefer lump sum. I'm just like a lump sum dude. When I get a house, I'm looking at property in Miami. It's kind of a dumb decision, but because it's gonna be underwater, they say, but it's also like, if I hold it for 5 years, if I like Miami, like sometimes things you wanna do don't make sense money-wise. Who knows? If you're not a huge fan of the stock market, another way to invest your money is to invest in real estate. Now, I have things to say about real estate as well. When you look into purchasing a home, you're gonna be faced with the decision of like, do I take out a mortgage, which is a French word, by the way, mort comes from death. It's like basically a death contract. Okay, do I take out a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage? Do I just pay for the house in cash? Basically, in cash means like you can just pay it all off at once. Pros and cons to each side. Pros of paying it off in cash is that you don't have to worry about debt. You're good. And you don't have to worry about interest accruing and you paying more for the house than it's worth. Taking out a mortgage though, 30 years, 15 years, you're basically committing to paying rent for 30 years. But instead of calling it rent, you're calling it a house payment. Now, if you do the 15-year way, your mortgage is gonna be paid off in 50 years, but you're gonna be paying more each month, right? We get that. You can also make additional house payments so that you can try to beat the clock and get it done before 15 years have passed or 30 years have passed.
One more thing. I just feel like no one's talking about how we're throwing around 15 years and 30 years as if it's nothing. It's like when you put that into perspective, okay, you do a 15-year mortgage, yeah, you can have it paid off in 15 years, but damn, how old am I gonna be in 15 years? What if I will probably be in a whole other part of my life? Like, will I even wanna live here? Of course I can sell it, but like, okay, if we factor in, if I do 2 15-year mortgages in my life, like damn, that's 30 years from now. Like I am literally gonna be in retirement at that point. I'll be 60. Like, you think I'm gonna wanna be doing all this? And this is always my difficulty when I'm talking to my accountants here because they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I wanna do this year. How can I set up a retirement account in France when I don't even know if I wanna be here? Do I wanna be in the States? I don't know. I don't have the answer. We can add this to the list of why I've been turned off by finance in general because it requires that you make these lifelong decisions like this when a lot of us aren't even ready. And in fact, I would even go so far as to say that a lot of people do these things, they feel like their life trajectory is set in stone and thus they lose interest in their own life. That's why they're watching reality TV all the time because those lives are more interesting than their own.
No, how do the rich do it? What a lot of rich people would do is they still, even though they have enough money for the house, $300,000, $400,000 house, even though they have that, it still makes sense to put that $400,000 in the stock market, take out a 30-year mortgage so that the money that's accruing interest in the stock market is accruing like at a greater rate than your mortgage payment. Did you guys get that? Like, that shit is lit though. Like, that's some smart people. They would have the monthly payment for the mortgage, but they'd also be making money in the stock market, hopefully enough that the money that's growing in the stock market is making more than the payment on the house. I feel like you guys don't get that. Instead of just paying $400,000 for the house, they take a loan out for the house. They have the $400,000, but they might as well make money with the $400,000 in the stock market because it'll make more money over time. And as that money's accruing, they're paying the monthly payment. So that at the end of 15 years, they have a house that's paid off because they did the mortgage after 15 years, but they also have that $400,000 after 15 years. How much is that? So $400,000 in the stock market over 15 years. The $400,000 will have accrued $431,000. You see what I'm saying? So as long as you can pay off that payment, it makes so much sense. It's a lot of brain work. I don't know if it's worth it, but the math makes sense. Does the brain work make sense? I don't know. So this is what they do. And this is why you'll see a lot of famous celebrities take out mortgages. 'Cause it's like, oh, they're just putting the money over there, watching it grow while they also pay this. So at the end of 15 years, they have both things. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I'm following. This is also why they say, like, did you know that that person's in debt? It's like, yeah, but it's apparently good debt, because it's like, makes sense. To be wealthy and rich, you gotta think like that. Like, you gotta think a little different, a little sideways. Like, on paper, it might not make sense, but like, in the grand scheme of things, got it.
Also, when it comes to investments, it's important to like prioritize where your energy should be placed, right? Like, instead of saving whatever, the $5 for your coffee every day, of course, over a year that will have accrued to like $1,000 something that you could have put in the stock market, yes. But maybe instead of like focusing so much on those little differences, like minute differences, focus your time instead on building a higher credit score so that when you do go get a house, the difference will be thousands of dollars, because they're gonna look at your credit score and be like, okay, we're willing to offer you this loan at this percentage of rate based on your credit score. Now that's is gonna be thousands of dollars of difference. The latte every day, one, you wanted the latte and you're alive today, so you should enjoy yourself. Like, that's what money's for. But two, it doesn't make sense to prioritize those little wins when you could be prioritizing the big wins, aka like using your credit score to, y'all get it? So much to cover.
But again, here are the other sides that I feel like no one's talking about when owning a home. Okay, you own a home, but like, you don't actually, are you really owning it though? Because even after you pay off that mortgage, even if you pay for it in cash or you pay off the payment, okay, still every year you have property taxes, which are like $4,000. Okay, $4,000 divided by 12, whatever that math is. It's still a payment. It's still a payment. Not only that, but then you have to get what's called homeowner's insurance. So now you got property tax, you got homeowner's insurance. If you live in a condo or a building, which you probably will if you live in New York or LA or Miami, the building has to be taken care of. You have what's called HOA, Homeowners Association, like the condo fees. Like, that's 3 payments every month in addition to your house payment. So I'm just saying, let's not act like getting a house is such a great, like, obvious decision. We're all approaching the real estate conversation from a point of like, yeah, I'm gonna have the house and it will be worth it once I sell it. But like, let's look at that profit though. Let's take Indiana, for example. You have a house, it's $100,000. In 10 years, that house will be $200,000. Okay, but after 10 years, maybe you needed a new roof. That's $20,000 of your cost. You need new laundry, you need a new window, the tornado blew the garage door off. Like, these are all costs that you have to front because you're a homeowner. Now, add all that up, then minus the property tax that you had to pay every year, minus insurance they had to pay every year. Like, are you really making that much money? Oh, also minus the realtor's fees when you sell the house, what, 6%? Okay, 6% of $200,000, that's $12,000. So deduct that from your profit. Like, okay. These are things that cut into your initial investment on the house. The good news is that a house is basically you stashing your money somewhere. So you're gonna get most of your investment back. That's the good part. It's like, your money's still yours. The cons of renting your entire life would be, well, look at what happened in the past few years. Landlords can raise rents when they want. That shit can get really expensive. Number two, once you pay for the roof over your head for the month, that's just the fee that it was. Like you'll never get that back. It's gone. Like, you wrote the check, it's gone. Just like taxes. With all that being said, here's what I plan on doing. I would love to find a place here in Paris. Like, I would love to buy this place, but I'm sure this is like millions of dollars. Buy a place in Paris, buy a place in probably Miami, go back and forth. And the reason I want that is because I want the freedom to be able to like knock down walls or redo the floors, and you don't get that when you rent, right? Since I'm such a nomad, I want the opportunity to rent this place out, sublet. Like, that's what I want. And when you're a tenant, I don't like feeling like I'm, again, doing wrong. Like, my landlord's so cool. I feel bad if I'm like renting this out. Crypto's making a lot of sense to me lately. And I say that because I work with a lot of people who aren't from the States. And when I pay them, I have to pay a fee from my bank because of like, they have to exchange the currency. Currency is also interesting because I, as someone from the States, I'm lucky in that I was born into a rather strong currency. Now, if Damon Dominique was born in Turkey, where the currency is not very strong, or Brazil, where the real is not that strong either, I'm at the mercy of my government's, I guess, position in the world, my government's economy. It has nothing to do with how hard I work every day. I work just as hard as the Damon Dominique in Brazil, Damon Dominique in Turkey, but I get paid more because my currency is somehow better. Like, again, crypto kind of gets rid of all this stuff because we're all on the same playing field. Like, I could essentially pay the Damon Dominique in Brazil through crypto because it's like a global currency. We don't have to like go through the bank. We don't have to go through the governments. The money that I make is my money. The money that you make is your money. Swap-de-doodle sons. Why does it matter that I'm from this country and you're from that country? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. I hold a few $1,000s in crypto and like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Hoo-wee. Is this video done yet? Damn. You guys, before you go and live abroad, we're playing by their rules, right? Reestablish your residency in a state with no income tax, because you're gonna have to, as Americans, we're taxed on whatever, citizenship instead of residence is stupid. We're one of the only countries to do this. You have to file your tax return every year, even if you're living in Bangladesh, okay? You don't have to pay taxes, you just have to tell them what you're doing, which again, it's like, are we in the Hunger Games? Before you go do this, it would be smarter for you to reestablish yourself in a state that has no income tax, because while you will still have to declare how much money you made globally or potentially pay US taxes, it'd be smarter for you not to have to pay state income tax. Like, state income tax you could probably get around. Federal you won't. So I made this mistake. Like, I left California. California is one of the states apparently that's known to like chase people for state income tax. Again, like Hunger Games, President Snow. If you live in a state with no state income tax, then you don't have to worry about that. I did this all wrong. I left California. California, as I mentioned, has one of the highest state taxes. Girl, I ain't even been to California in 3 years. How are you gonna ask me to pay California state income tax? Oh, because you voted absentee in California. Like, I've really had enough of this. I did, in fact, vote absentee in the state of California. But that's because that's how the system works. That's because you guys set it up that way. I think it's personally silly that we still have our voter rights tied to a state. It should just be national. Instead, we do this funky mathematic game of the Electoral College. Okay, that's problem number one. Problem number two, our driver's license are tied to a state. I've really had enough, you guys. I can't do this. My driver's license is expiring in October. If I just want to renew it online, I'm supposed to submit a utility bill. I don't have a utility bill. I don't live there. I've lived abroad, okay? If I did just like fake it and renew it online, then apparently it proves to the state of California that I still consider myself a California state resident, and therefore I am responsible for California state income tax. Just give me a national driver's license. That's how every other country does it. That'd be smart. That would be really smart. Is this resonating? Am I falling flat? All my videos that I filmed, if there's an American or someone living abroad, off camera I always ask like, oh, how are you set up? Like, how are you doing this? Not one has even bothered. So what you're hearing from me firsthand is like, yeah, they're probably doing things illegally. And I actually feel like the fool because I've tried to do things the legal way, trying to get all the correct answers, and it's just like, I don't think people actually know, because this is also new. All of us living around the world, especially post-COVID, people can work from home now, right? So we're all kind of like, oh, well, I can kind of work over there. Even governments have not caught up yet. They're not ready for global citizens. I have friends here in Paris who are on visas, who come here, but their visa's like, oh, you're not allowed to work. Well, they work online. So do you mean you can't work online? You're not allowed to actually work in France? Or I'm not allowed to like take a job from a French person? Is that what you mean? Because we're still both working in France on 2 different visas, but one of us is expected to pay taxes and the other one isn't, yet we both still have online jobs. These governments, when I try to do my taxes, they don't even know what a content creator is yet. So, you expect somebody to pay taxes, but you don't give them the right to vote. That's what taxes are for. No taxation without representation. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, there are lots of actual perks about being American that I've now realized, like down to little things like, oh, here in France, like wait, you're telling me if I do my business here, if I just run it all through France, like my credit card doesn't accrue travel points? I love my Chase Sapphire travel rewards. Like, what do you mean? Like, there are definitely positives to the American system. There are incentives for business. Like, I know the bank just wants me to spend money and spend money on my credit card, but I know the system well enough to be like, yeah, but I'm gonna pay it off and I'm gonna take advantage because I'm gonna use this credit card, pay for that thing that I would have paid in cash, but now I'm gonna get points for it, which is free money. Like, that doesn't make sense. Oh my God. To I guess end this video, I feel like the conversation around finance does tend to be from a scarce mindset. Like, what are you gonna do when this happens? Or fear what could happen in a few years if you don't save now. It's very from this POV that I've never operated my life from, which is why I'm like, I'm not gonna associate. When you start diversifying, there's also a mental toll. Oh shit, I hope the stock market goes up because I invested all this money. Like, you got skin in the game, boo. So that's just something I wanted to mention. Should you invest? Yes. Should you also know that it takes a toll? Yeah. Has the conversation not always been so fear-mongery? Like, on this channel, we don't do that. For example, you have your money in the bank. Yeah, but your money could be losing to inflation. Okay, so I'll put my money in the stock market. Yeah, but what if the stock market goes down? Like, okay. Here's something else I've never heard anybody say. Why do we in the United States deem higher education as a privilege? You know, investment in your future. It costs so much freaking money. It's like $200,000. Okay, so you take out loans, you take out student loans from the government. The government, I swear, is behind the scenes like, like they don't actually know because they're so young, they don't know this yet. You're gonna graduate, you got like 2-3 years to defer your loans because you don't have enough money yet. Then you're gonna be backed into paying those loans off, $200,000. That's a lot of money to pay off, boo. Okay, especially when you're working entry level, where remember, beginning of the video, you're taxed at a higher rate. So I'm just saying you're setting yourself up for a life of like a hustle, like struggling. You're probably like, well, what can I do, Damon? What can I do? Well, you could go study somewhere else. You could learn everything online. That's what you do anyway. Like, let's be real. You go to your history class, you don't understand anything. You're like, shit, well, I gotta prepare for the test. Let me like watch some YouTuber. You actually learn on YouTube. You actually learned from this video. But yet you're gonna go back to college, take a test. It's gonna say you learned. You didn't learn from that, you learned from here. But you yourself still value that college education. That's ludicrous. That's silly. That doesn't make sense, you guys. And everyone else is gonna play along with this game. Oh, where'd you go to college? If one person freaking asked me where I went to college, at this day and age, it's been 10 years that I've been out of college. To think that the knowledge that I learned from 10 years ago is the knowledge that's carrying me today is wrong. The knowledge that's carrying me through today is the knowledge that I've learned not only in college, but also afterwards. It wasn't just where I went to college. It's literally my YouTube Premium subscription. That's where I learned everything. Just be smart with your money. All the, sorry, like all this bullshit in this video. In conclusion, I was learning about this topic as I was doing a deep dive into philosophy at the same time. So I was constantly approaching finance from this angle of like, okay, but why don't we just, in order to feel richer, Why don't you just desire less? Why don't you just desire what you already have? Like, I think what did it for me is traveling and realizing I'm happy on a $10 bus. That mentality is priceless. I think that is actually what's worth most here. Not everybody has that. If you like this channel, you probably have it. Like, in a way, you see yourself in me. That's why you're following this, I think. I don't know. Why are you following? Like, can you comment below? So chasing money never made sense. Desiring less did. Okay, so what else? Philosophical thought number 2, we don't want money, we want security. It's money that we think gives us security. But that leads me to philosophical thought number 3, it's actually a false sense of security. Because even when you have billions of dollars, someone could sue you, or the IRS could all of a sudden audit you. You forgot to fill out one form because you did business in London one day and you forgot to do taxes there. And where is this receipt that you said was a business expense from 2017 where you took your business partner out to dinner? Where is that? I need that paper receipt. It's like, girl, we're in 2040 now. What is paper? Like, kids don't even know what paper is. It's also so silly to me that we can hire CPAs and they can be fiduciaries, meaning that they can act on our behalf in terms of our taxes, but if we get audited from the government because they think we're like hiding money or doing something wrong, then like that accountant who has been doing everything for 15 years for you could just leave one day and then you're completely in the, like, you don't know what happened. It drives me insane that I can hire a lot of these accountants to give me advice, but then I look at their email signature and it's like, not to be taken, like this advice cannot be used against us in the court of law should something go wrong. And it's like, well, who else am I supposed to ask? Like, aren't you the ones to go to for the advice? The whole reason I have money is because I didn't study the tax code, I studied something else. That made me lots of money. That allowed me to hire somebody to then assist me. What's next? If there's one topic that you could learn about, it's this. Scratch that, it's probably philosophy or psychology, because that's like how you stay stable and grounded in that mind of yours. I'm constantly teetering back and forth between, okay, it's just money, and then also it's like, yeah, but you need money to live, so you might as well get good at money. You know what? In conclusion, I'm in the period of my life, I'm getting good at everything. That's where I'm at on this channel. Where are you guys at? Y'all wanna join me? Like, motto of this year, I'm getting good at everything. Thank you for watching. I'll be back in a week or so with the Las Vegas video. And then I'm going to a top secret country at the end of the month. I'm excited for it. Thank you for watching. Bisous. Cheers to living a good life. And guess what? To be honest, you don't need much money for it. That was like €6. Pinky up.